where we get into everything that people don't really want to talk about. And we move away from the one-sided view that most have, whether they're on the right or they're on the left or they're in the middle. It's a very one-sided view, if you notice, for most Americans today. Nobody's putting the whole puzzle together. Everybody's got their little piece, and that's it. You know, on this channel, we put the puzzle together. There's a whole lot more to it than most of y'all realize. I believe there's a funneling effect happening. I believe Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, you know, they're the two main players that have caused this funneling effect in the last decade or so. And I know what y'all are thinking right now. You're probably thinking, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, what do they got to do with each other? Well, before we get into that, first let me explain. I do consider myself a Republican. I'm very conservative by nature. But I do vote depending on who the person is and what's going on and what they believe in. You know, so I will sometimes vote on independent, sometimes vote a libertarian, sometimes vote for a Democrat. Just depends on what they got going on. But I'm never socialist and never far left. That's my own personal political views and beliefs for the most part. Because as I get into this, some of the sheep out there are going to swear on their grandmother's grave that Politically Anonymous is not a Republican. And that's because they have been brainwashed to almost be a cult of what they're following. And we're going to get into that here in just a moment. All right, let's put the picture together. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. I don't know if y'all realize this or not, but Bernie Sanders originally was an independent. He ran on independent tickets. He did all of that. He, in I believe 2016, started adding Democratic Socialist to his platform. And he's always been socialist, even when he was independent. But the reason he added the Democratic part to it, was it funneled liberals to now begin voting for Democrat leadership. Liberals now see Democrats as liberal, but they're not. Liberals and Democrats are two different parties, two different beliefs. But if y'all remember in the 2016 campaign, every time there was a commercial, you know, that advertised a Democrat person running for office, no matter who it was, they always tied Bernie Sanders into it. That was the funneling effect, moving liberals to voting for Democrats, which is what's happening now. Got a ton of liberals voting for Democrats. They don't realize. See, this stuff's been in the making for 40 years or more. Schools, think about it. It all started when we were really young. People were not taught to research and think for themselves. They were taught to rinse and repeat. They were taught to give the memorized answer. They were taught to, they were taught to be robots, you know, and it's created that. So they take what they hear and they consider that fact. They don't read anymore. They don't research anymore. You know, so they were seeing Democrat and Bernie Sanders, and it psychologically programmed them to vote Democrat. That's what they did. So now the Democrats gained a whole new group of people, you know, for the majority. There were a few liberals that still vote liberal. They know they're not Democrats. But for the majority of them, they think they're Democrats. They think Democrats and liberals are the same thing. They did such a good job of it that even some Republicans have started calling Democrats liberals. You know, so even some of the Republicans fell for it. Look, ladies and gentlemen, a Democrat and a liberal are two totally different things. You know, they're two totally different things. Now, you get far left Democrats that get close to the liberal line, but they're still not liberals. They are still Democrats. If they were liberals, They would call themselves liberals. So that's the first part of the funneling effect. Now you may ask yourself, oh, okay, well, what's Donald Trump got to do with that? I don't know if y'all know this or not, but in 2001, Donald Trump was registered as a Democrat. And Donald Trump also has donated to the Clinton Foundation. He was a longtime supporter of the Clintons. Donald Trump also, has supported a lot of Democrat-funded parties and different things like that over the years. Hosted them within his hotels and different things like that. Also, you can look all this up. It's all public information online. Okay, all I'm asking is that you think for yourself. Donald Trump came into office. He came into office with a vengeance. All right. Everybody was like, oh, Donald Trump wasn't welcome. He wasn't wanted. And they didn't accept him and yada, yada, yada. I used to believe the same damn thing. I used to think the same way. But then I got to thinking a little further into it. If they really didn't want Donald Trump in office, he wouldn't have been in office. If he wasn't a part of the establishment in some way, he would not have been in the establishment. It never would have happened. Look at this current midterm election. Look at what's happening right now. If you go and you look at the map, they're still counting votes. They are slow rolling them votes because they don't want a massive win on the Democrat side. But if you notice where the slow rolls are, they're in areas where Democrat governors are in control, where there's a lot of Democrats. They're controlling them votes. You're going to see barely little edge wins by the Democrat Party because they want to keep the Democrats in control. All right. And I'm a firm believer that if you are running for president and winning and you were not meant to be president, you would die before you became president. All right. Donald Trump is still alive and well. Trust me, he's a part of the establishment. Donald Trump's also ultra wealthy. He's very much a part of the establishment. He's very much tied with these people. And I believe that a lot of what's going on is acting. He created a division. He created a division even within the Republican Party. Because in the 2020 elections, there were even Republicans that voted for Joe Biden just because they did not want to see Donald Trump in office again. They knew that. So that funneled some of them over that way. The only people that stayed to the Republican side were your die-hard Trump supporters or Trump fans. Trump being the way he was, he almost created he created a cult. If you ever try to talk to somebody that is a hardcore Trump supporter and you try to talk to them about anything Trump may have done, whether you liked it or didn't like it, they get really offended, like you're talking about their mother. It gets way out of hand. That's not normal, mature adult behavior. That's very much a brainwashed response as well on both sides. And that's a problem. Also, here's another thing. I believe Donald Trump was sent, basically, I believe he was backed and pushed by the Clintons and a large portion of the elite that we don't meet, those that are in control, that are above our political, guru stuff that we see on TV. These are world leaders. I believe they backed Trump. And I believe it was put there on purpose. I believe Trump acted arrogant on purpose. I believe a lot of that was all by design. And it was all by design to cause this effect that we have now. If they were going to end up with a revolt, they wanted the revolt to be between people, not between all the people in the government. So how do you do that? You divide the people. Think about how many different ways they divided us. You had BLM going on, so they were dividing us by race. You had Antifa going on. They were dividing us by whatever you want to call it, social status, which we're going to get into that in later videos. Coming up, I've got the fall of the dollar coming, one world currency. Gonna show y'all, map it out. Also going to get into Antifa and how that was backed by the government. That was also a Democrat-backed movement within the United States. We're going to get into all of that. But Donald Trump has very much, almost completely destroyed the Republican Party. Think about it with these midterm elections. Everybody that Donald Trump publicly endorsed, anybody he got up and publicly endorsed, has lost. They've all lost. And it's been that way for ever since he was president. Every time he publicly endorses somebody, it hurts them. He's not dumb. This is a man that owns multiple millions of dollars worth of businesses. He is not an idiot. He knows that if he publicly endorses somebody, it's going to hurt them. So if he was really for the advancement of the Republican Party and stopping the socialist movement that's happening in America today, wouldn't he quit publicly endorsing people? Think about it. It's all by design. It's a pawn. It's not just him, but it's the entire establishment playing the American people. You know, all this stuff is headed towards a complete economic collapse. Worse than what we saw in 1929. Like I said earlier, we're going to get into that in upcoming videos. And that's, the border crisis has to do with that. The political crisis has to do with that. What they're doing with inflation, everything. It all has to do with that, and it's all headed that direction. But ladies and gentlemen, you got to think about this. You know, and I voted for Trump both times. But if you do some research and you start putting it together, you'll realize that Trump's a plant. He's a plant for what's going on, in a plan that's been in play for 30, 40 years. Not just a plan in play here in the United States, but a worldwide plan that's been in play. You know, what he's doing is not benefiting America. If he wants to support somebody, he should quietly support them. He knows that if he publicly does it, it hurts them. It hurts a lot of them to the point that they lose. He's been campaigning ever since the day he lost. You know, he's been going around the country having rallies ever since the day he lost. Nobody does that. Nobody starts campaigning 4 years before the next run. The whole reason he started campaigning 4 years before the next run was to keep the division. He had to keep the division going. There's a purpose for that division. Let no crisis go unchecked. All right? This crisis was created on purpose. The division had to remain. It had to remain in order for everything to continue moving in the way it was needing to go. And that's what's happening. They're slow rolling these votes. They're going to try to keep the Democrats in control. They're still playing with Trump like he's an enemy. Trump's still publicly endorsing people, which is hurting people. Trump is still doing rallies, so he's able to keep the division. And whether you're a Trump supporter or not a Trump supporter, all I ask is that you sit back and really think about it. Don't be brainwashed. Don't be sheep. Don't do it. All these people up there in control, they are meant to be in control. If they weren't, they wouldn't be in control. Just a little brainstorm of something to think about. And the funneling effect of how they used Bernie Sanders to funnel more uneducated people, because if they were educated, they'd realize Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat, and that voting for Democrats is not voting for Bernie Sanders, you know. But their belief is, hey, we were told he is, you know. Rinse and repeat. Whatever I'm told is what it is. I don't read. I don't do no research. Just something to think about, folks. Something to put together for yourselves. Do some research, do some reading. I know I can't be the only one. There's no way that I'm the only one that sees this. Y'all take care, stay safe, and until next time, keep your eyes open.